Emerge Stories is a place where, as the name implies, you are going to hear stories. Stories from people all over the Philippines who have come from many different types of backgrounds, and especially people who have gone through struggles, people who have gone through the challenging parts of life. And I hope that these stories will relate for you in some way, that some of these stories will really land for you because these people have gone through probably just about the same thing you might be going through right now. Today in Emerge Stories, I have the distinct pleasure to bring to you a conversation with someone who is very special to me, Jardine de Leon. She is just one of the most amazing people that I think I've ever met anywhere. And I've had the pleasure of actually working with her for about 4.5 years now. And there's a really special story behind all of that that I hope to tell in more depth someday of how Jardine left her career to work with me as my executive assistant and now how she really leads the culture of our entire company. And she's just a very amazing person, but especially she's just an amazing example of a single mom and someone who is taking a lot of ownership of her own life and her own growth and learning. So Jardine is a single mother. She really believes in prioritizing her own well-being and her son's needs above societal expectations. You'll hear us talk about her story of overcoming challenges in parenting and relationships through forgiveness, self-reflection, and a growth mindset. Jardine draws inspiration from renowned mentors such as Teal Swan, Sadhguru, and Simon Sinek, who have helped her to deepen her spiritual understanding, develop her leadership skills, and find the courage to live a fulfilling life very intentionally. We're really honored to have Jardine here today on the show to share her powerful message of self-love, forgiveness, and personal growth. And I hope that some of you out there, maybe especially single moms or anyone out there I hope there's a lot of you who hear her story and relate with it, and that there's something in it that will be really meaningful for you. And, just try to think of who she was and now who she is. Of course, you don't get to know her back 5, 8, 9, 10 years ago, but you can kind of hear from her story that she has just evolved and reinvented herself many times. And this is just so possible for everyone, for all of us. And so I hope that this is an inspiring conversation for you. And if it is, or if you know someone who you think that this story would sort of touch, please take a minute and share it with them because you never know how stories can change other people's lives. And let's jump in. Thanks for being here so much. Welcome, Jardine, to the Emerge Philippines interview series. I am so excited to have you here today. How are you?
I am also very excited to be here. As a matter of fact, I find it an honor that I'm here. And thank you for having me here. It's a great opportunity to speak up and just share inner truth that could be relatable to people. I think I'm comfortable already speaking with you. So I think it's a nice feeling to be here.
I think you and I haven't had a one-on-one conversation in far too long, so I'm just looking forward to it for that reason.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, let's start out telling people a little bit about kind of where you are in life right now. Like, what are some of the things you're working on or excited about or happy about in your life, proud of, stuff like that?
I find that question very scary before because I'm so used to introducing myself with what profession or what area am I contributing to finance industry, how do I make money like that. But right now I love introducing myself as a mother as I enjoy being a mom, and I also love to introduce myself as someone who just loves to love people. I work with you in Valhalla, and it's a great environment to be with people who are rooted in core values, not just because they're written, but because it really resonates with everyone. And I love to, make sure that people are aligned. And maybe technically I also do HR thing, but I love it. I love it knowing people even more and identifying that each one of these potential new team member would contribute not just for the company but for the well-being of the people working here. So yeah.
Nice. I like the way you describe being the head of HR of our company and, as we call it, senior culture curator, but the person who takes care of the people. And it's so nice to have you doing that. And I'm lucky to work with you. I think we need to tell people the story of kind of how we met and when, what that was like. But before we do, let's go kind of back to the beginning or something like that. Tell us about your roots and where you grew up and kind of what was your childhood like.
I grew up in Mindanao, in Iligan City, raised in a conservative family. My parents were strict, but they have very good reasons. And I have a very colorful childhood, the ups and the downs, but I keep on remembering the beautiful things that I did when I was a child, like creating my own team of superheroes because it was Power Rangers back then. I was so obsessed with it and I let my siblings and cousins join. So I'm that kind of person who leads people to imagine and just embracing the beauty of the things that people might think is a little bit crazy, but it's so fun. And I also took literature. I've been drawn to literature since I was a child. And although it's not the preferred books my parents would love me to read, but I never gave up on it. So I'm into poetry now and reading literary pieces and, novels, short stories like that.
And you ended up getting a degree in literature that led you to be teaching, right? And I'm
Yes. But it wasn't like that before. I took up biology as per parents' request. They wanted me to be a doctor, but I never wanted to be a doctor. I don't like the sight of blood and other parts that are dissected, even a frog. And I knew that's not the area that I'm good at.
Mhm.
But, it was a struggle to really push for it, but I did. And I'm so thankful that I did. And I took up masters in literature. And I've been so, so happy that I did that.
So you finished school, you took biology like your parents wanted you to, and then you later went back to study literature, a master's?
Yeah, because what happened was when I took biology, it was a blessing in disguise that I failed my chemistry class 3 times.
Eh,
So thank God for that. I
huh.
was expelled in that department. So that was when I took a stand and said, this is not where I want my life to be because I'm not happy. I was forced to memorize things that I have no idea about. And when I got the letter that I was expelled, I went to the department for AB English. I took the exam right then and there, and then I passed. And then for the next semester, I was admitted to AB Literature. And I was so happy, and I'm excited also to share that I became Dean's Lister for several times. So I think it's a great indicator that when you're happy with what you're doing, you have results. And it's not that you're bragging about it, but "Yeah, I worked hard for it. This is what I want." So it's a
Yeah.
good thing.
So it was voluntary. You wanted it, you chose it. You had the guts to stand up and say it, even though that happened after failing. But
Yeah,
maybe part of you, failed because you didn't want to be doing it, right? And then,
exactly.
yeah, that's a great lesson. A lot of people probably feel similarly and then don't have it's scary. It's scary to stand up to people and say, okay, I know this is what you want for me, but it's not working for me. And yeah, so it's good that you ended up finding the thing that aligned for you more.
Yeah.
Can we go back a little bit to the younger years where you said that your family was maybe a bit conservative and a bit strict, is what you said, and then it was colorful and you were very imaginative and you used the word maybe people thought a little bit crazy or something like that. So,
Yeah.
how do you think people saw you back then, or how did you see yourself?
Oh, that's a tough one. For my relatives or even with my neighbors, firstly, they would see me as someone else's child or daughter. So they can't see me directly. They have to see me through my parents. So if they see me, they can't see Jardine. They can see, oh, that's the child of, that's the daughter of. So every time I do something, whether it's nice or not nice, they would almost automatically look at my parents, like how was I raised and stuff. And then that part is painful because I thought that I'm just being invisible, just following the shadows of my parents. But then I hear a few comments here and there that I'm just trying to grab a spotlight or just trying too hard to make a name out of myself and that I didn't have the rights to do that. But
What were what
yeah.
were you doing that made people say that? Like, if we could see you, what did it look like? Your kind of behavior was leading to that accusation.
I'm a very friendly person. Anytime I bump into someone, it's very easy for me to open a conversation and just really like a child that says, "Hi, what's your name? My name is Jordan. Can we be friends now?"
Right?
And people find that weird for some reasons. They're used to,
Yeah.
if you're a child, you don't have to say anything. Don't join into conversations. Don't ask questions. It was Kind of like that before.
And so when a child gets that kind of feedback that it's not appreciated how you're so vocal or you're so comfortable just asking questions like that, well, it doesn't feel good, first of all, right? It kind of makes us not feel good about ourselves. But then a lot of kids will just change their behavior and shut down. Did you ever shut down or did you always just keep doing it anyway? Kind of staying
I
true to who you were?
There was a time that I shut down. I stopped talking every time we have visitors at home. I stayed in the room or just really go outside the house. And I felt so isolated and left out. And I felt that I don't have anything of value to share. But I felt that I was the one suffering. I didn't like that. So I stopped opening up in that environment. I looked for another environment where I can open up and be free and be me again
Where did you look for that or where did you find it?
with my cousins, because my cousins were like my age and they're highly imaginative. We watch the same shows, and soon it was the neighbors' children, and I kind of influenced them to do the same. Even it was short lived because the parents would somehow not highly encourage to have playtime with me, even at school.
Yeah.
But yeah, eventually I just have to keep on looking for an opportunity or an environment to keep doing it.
So looking for people where you felt safe to be you.
Yes, it's hard work, but
It
yes.
is. It is. I think that that's an incredibly powerful thing for people to think about and realize is that no matter how you are, no matter who you are, genuinely who you really are, there are people out there who would appreciate it. And there are people out there that would just celebrate that and let you have space to be you. So I think that's a great example to follow. It's like, don't shut yourself down, don't cut yourself off, but look for the people that you can surround yourself with that will actually help you, maybe even feed that amazing side of you that isn't being appreciated where you're at. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you for sharing that stuff. I guess fast forwarding a bit, you are one of the coolest single moms that I know. And there's a lot of single moms in the Philippines, right? But like you're so courageous in the way that you parent your son. And I'm curious, well, I guess tell people just a little bit about how did you end up being a single mom, if it's okay. Can you share that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to relationships, for now, I could say I'm not good at it. I wasn't good at it because I'm married. I'm legally married, but I married for the wrong reasons. It was during that time that I kind of shut off again. I was thinking I have to get a balance in my life. And by balance, I thought it was I have to meet the expectations of people and also meeting my expectations. How do I juggle them? And I didn't know much during that time. So I just told myself, okay, I will settle. Even if I know deep in my heart it wasn't the right thing
Yeah.
to do. And so for 5 years, I had a very hard time identifying who I truly am. But when the courage, the last ounce of courage really hit me, I had to say, no, I'm not going to go through this anymore. My son is very important to me. My well being is very important to me. And if the person cannot identify with that, simply because within the other person's perspective, maybe he's also missing something. And so I decided to separate.
Right. Yeah.
But
It's
most importantly, I took it to heart that whatever it is that I'm going to prioritize, it's not just about the balance of what people want. I don't know what people want. I only know what I want. So I have to go for it.
well, most of the time we have an idea in our minds what other people's opinions of us are, but we're completely making it up. It's projection of ours. Most of the time they're not thinking about us, you know? They're worried about all the stuff they're worried about and what other people think of them. We're all doing the same thing. And we're scared. We're scared of what other people's opinions are of us. So you had a concept of what other people wanted and you had what you felt like you wanted for yourself and you couldn't reconcile them. So you went in a different path and then you ended up in a relationship. How young, what age were you then when you got married?
25,
Okay.
25, 26. Yeah.
Okay, when you got married. Okay. And then that relationship didn't go well for the usual reasons where either or both people aren't who they need to be yet to be able to, like, you don't know how to be a great partner. Right. So, and then got bad enough that you decided to have the courage to separate.
Yeah.
How about now? Like, what's your relationship like with the father of your son?
Oh, I have made a very conscious effort every day for the past few years to really forgive. not forgive him, but forgiveness from within. I'm not doing it for him. He can live his life the way he wants to live his life. I respect him. He's a great human being. When I decided to forgive all of us, I took the time to welcome him in our home and also welcome the new family, his new family. And we talked about it. And I shared with them how peaceful I am now and how I look forward to being joyful again. And that includes being happy for them too, whatever they decide for their lives. So, yeah.
I think that's incredible. Very few people that I know have had the courage to do things like that. And it's also so powerful. Do you feel that way? Like it feels, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. When I finally decided to forgive these people, including myself, I noticed that my energy is lighter. I'm happier. There's very, very little room for judgment, even the judgment against the self. And I have come to realize that I have so much more love to give. So, yeah, that's
Nice.
how it felt.
Nice. Beautiful. I have similar experiences of my own where just that internal process of forgiving yourself, other people, letting it go is so powerful. And then doing some external actions to also clear up old relationship problems. It's amazing. That's really special that you did that. I'd love to hear a little bit about you were in Mindanao when you were married or you were already in Cebu?
I'm already here in Cebu.
Okay. And then when you separated, you had to go out on your own, be single mom taking care of your son, or how did it go?
Well,
Not
what
right away?
happened? No, it wasn't right. It's still here in Cebu. When I was still living with my ex partner, and where I'm living right now, it's still the same place. I'm the one who drove the person away. It's like, this is my house. You get out.
Okay.
But yeah, I badly wanted to move out and have a new environment, a new physical environment. But because during that time, my choices were not as great. So I have to sit down with myself and change my inner environment, even if the external environment didn't make a lot of difference. What I was able to do is to rearrange furnitures, rearrange mindset, rearrange what language to use at home. So, so like that.
Okay, I think this is like one of the most incredibly powerful things I've ever heard you say ever since I've known you. And that's like so well articulated because like I've had very big challenges myself with wanting to grow, wanting to feel progress, feeling very stuck, and then kind of a feeling like my environment was kind of part of why I was stuck or I just wanted to get out. And I think I've also spent a lot of time, evaluating progress in my life by looking at the outside world and saying, okay, is my situation getting better? Am I making more money? Do I have more freedom, etc.? And it took me so long to learn that the most important things to start working on are all inner journey stuff and that we have all the power. Like it doesn't matter what's going on outside of us. We have the power and nobody can take it away from us to do the work on ourselves and learn and grow. And that's at the core of the purpose of why I created Emerge and why we're doing this at all is to help people realize like no matter what your external situations are in life, no matter where you live, no matter what you think you don't have, that we can all take ownership of our own inner journey, right? So I'd love to hear a little bit more about how did you go about doing that? Like if somebody else out there is listening to this and they're like, okay, that sounds great, but how do I do it? Like, can you share some thoughts on that?
Yes, yes, definitely. I would love to. And first things first, it is ugly. It's very ugly because you have to admit to yourself you don't like where you are, you don't like who you are. You have to identify and admit to yourself that things are really dark and messed up. And sadly, in my journey, Vaughn had to see it too. I never wanted to make him see what I'm going through, but that's the card that I've been given, and that's part of the things I have to embrace. Vaughn seeing me in my miserable state, crying and shouting, and he's scared too. But, it's a tiring thing to say. It's a daily process, but it is. I cry. I go to a corner in my room and I cry. Sometimes I shout, and sometimes I throw things. And my neighbors are very considerate. They don't meddle anymore. They understand. So thank you to my neighbors. They're so loving and kind. But I no longer deny how I feel. But at the end of each session where I'm crying, I also have to consciously, deliberately ask myself, now what? Oh, Jardine, what do you want to do now? And then even the simplest answer, I don't want to shake it off anymore. After I cry, oh, Jardine, what do you want to do now? I want a donut. I have to buy a donut. I
Hmm.
want coffee. I have to drink coffee. And then later on, I start to make one sentence journal. Today, I don't like what's going on because. And then once I see my writing, I have to ask again, what do you want to do now? Do you want it to just be like this? Who's feeling everything in its entirety? It's not the people that you don't like. It's not the people who hurt you. Because whether they feel it or not, they will never be you. They will never have the same blood as you. So you have to make conscious decision what you want and identify the people are for me truly and who the people are that I consciously, deliberately 100% love. And that person is my son. And I want to continue serving him in the best possible way. And one of the ways to do that is to take care of myself. So every single day process, and eventually you get to the point that, oh, this is very familiar. I think I know what to do next. It gets better.
Would you say that was a process of deciding, like building up the courage to take full ownership of your own life
Yes, definitely.
and stop blaming other people or situations for where you're at
Yeah. The first few parts, I also have make space or make room for blaming people. I
in the
don't
beginning?
like what they did.
Okay.
Yes. I don't
So
like
you
what they did.
so you started by just allowing yourself time and energy within yourself or just within your own living space to just vent out all the blaming at first and then realize, okay, well, do I want to keep feeling this way or do I want to find a way to make progress?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you for sharing those things. Were there any resources that helped you along the way at that time, or was it just kind of you figuring it out in your own head?
I've always believed that no man is an island. So whenever it is that I've acquired, or even during the time while I was in a process, I never would admit to doing it alone because people, whether they are in my inner circle or people who have written books or shared podcasts or YouTube channels, whatever that is called, they have helped me. One of them is a very, very old poetry piece. It's from Khalil Gibran, the prophet. I've read that several times. And I love that piece of poetry because it grounds me in my heart and in my soul. And it's gotten me to a place where love is still stronger and your soul is the most powerful thing you could ever have. And, the mind becomes your breeding ground of possibilities. And then I'm also into Sir Maria Pincoestes. I've read The Woman Who Runs with the Wolves. It's very empowering for women because I would consider myself as a highly spiritual person. And by that, I understand it to be like I run in faith, I run in hope, I run in love. And that book has helped me realize that there's so much more that you can do by just sitting down and then embracing yourself for who you are. And from that place, you can slowly create your own beautiful reality and not feel so bad about it.
Amazing. Would you say that during that process, you moved locus of control inside, like you moved the control of your future and how you live and who you are from being outside you to inside you, something like that?
Yes, yes, very much.
That's what it sounds like. That's an amazing journey. I've always appreciated how vulnerable you are and how you don't hesitate to say the ugly side of things about the process. And I appreciate you sharing those because I know a lot of people, oh, I think probably almost all of us go through really difficult, ugly things that we almost never talk about. And it's hard to feel. It's just always easier to go through life when you know that you're not the only one, right? There's other people out there, like probably almost everyone is going through something like that. And to hear how they dealt with it and that they still ended up in a better place is reassuring. Thank you for sharing. You said that something about taking care of yourself first. What have you learned in that area? What did you ever have a challenge making that a priority? What have you changed or learned there?
Well, the first journey that I had was way back in college. And I have shared this with a lot of my students already. But the first dark era that I have in my life was the time when I tried to take my life away 3 times. And when I share that with my students, I share it with a laugh by saying, well, it's funny now because I'm still alive. It wasn't effective.
Yes.
But the worst that I have done towards myself, and I've forgiven myself for that. I went to a season where I really hurt myself. I beat myself up to the point that after I take a bath, my body is swelling already because I punch myself a lot of times. I slap myself. I hit my head, etc. And I just wanted to be heard. I just wanted to be seen. But when the people who are close to me saw my bruises, they got angry. They didn't even ask. So I used that process during that time to keep on asking, is this what I want to do? Because at the end of the day, I'm the one getting hurt. They didn't feel anything. They didn't feel the bruise. They didn't feel the punches. I'm the one who has that. So I continue to ask, sit down and ask what I'm going to do next. So when I had another similar journey right now, I go back to that lesson and I tell myself, you survived that. You survived that without much knowledge yet. All you had that time was an intuition to just say, just wake up one more day. But now I have more resources. I can identify what true people are for me and what I would truly and genuinely do with people, how love looks like for me, and how I am very much willing to go to the ends of the world to be that. So I just go back to asking myself, like, so what are you gonna do now? Just one
Mov-
tiny thing at a time.
Moving forward and figuring out like what's next. When you said journey, you're referring to like really low points. So you said when you have very relatively severe low points in the present time, that's what you're talking about, right? That you were like, I got through it back then and I had almost no tools, but look at who I am now and look at those resources I have. That's kind of the inner narrative that you're using.
Yes,
Got
yes.
it. Thank you for sharing that as well. What are some of the things you've built as habits to prioritize yourself? And before you answer that, I myself have had this psychological emotional challenge of learning that it's actually vital to prioritize ourselves if we want to help other people. Because if we don't actually put ourselves first, kind of like if you're in a flood, you want to try to save people, you got to get out of the flood first. It's like the oxygen mask metaphor, right? You got to put yours on before you try to help other people. And it's hard for people sometimes to justify putting themselves first because it feels like we're being selfish, or other people maybe even blame us for being selfish, but we really can't help other people if we don't invest in ourselves and build ourselves, right? And I know you would agree with that statement. So, through that lens, what has your, like, anything you could share around either habits you've built or struggles you've had in learning how to prioritize yourself first in your life?
One of the misconceptions that I had was like what you mentioned, when people see as putting yourself first as being selfish. That's one of the things that I really have to break deliberately and keep repeating. It's not selfishness. It's just a matter of making a decision for yourself. And because I now see it as not being selfish, another misconception that I have is that the physical, emotional, and spiritual parts of you are separate. For me, they're not. They're not separate at all. When you do one particular habit, I would like to see it as one habit that strikes all three. So when I do sitting down with myself, internalizing, reflecting, meditating, it never works when I don't use my body. So I have to make it a point that I have a routine for exercising. I have a routine for expressing emotions. So when I do meditation, I also make sure I have time to write poetry or just express myself through words or writing. And I go out to run as much as I can. It has to be at least three for me. And these three, I still consider them as one whole part of me. Yeah.
Do you have those habits kind of built several times a week, every day? Like, what's it look like for you?
The first few times that I have to build it, it had to be every day. It's so tiring to do it every day, my goodness, but you have to do it every day. It's for your own good. Even if you start to think that maybe it's fine that I will not do it today. Honestly, it is fine, but would you rather feel bad because you have to wake up and do or build your habit, or you can go back to sleep and then dwindle down the road of
Yeah.
I'm having depression again and I
Yeah.
can't do anything. Yeah.
So you found that meditation, running, and journaling have been like these pillars for keeping your happiness levels higher or keeping you moving in the right direction, progress wise in your life?
Yes, yes, very much. And another thing that I'd love to add also is I always inject every time I can my love language. So my love language is physical touch and words of affirmation. So every time I journal, I also affirm. Or when I run, sometimes I invite Vaughn to run. So I'm with someone, I can hold his hand. Or when I do meditation, sometimes I also have Vaughn or just include other people in my prayers and stuff like that. So
Nice.
yeah.
I love that. Speaking of your son, I'd love to hear some of the things that maybe some of the challenges that you've had. So you mentioned earlier that you felt pretty bad that he was witnessing some of the hard parts of your journey, but how would you say he's doing now? And like, what are some of the things that you've learned of being a single mom?
I remembered when I was at the low point in my life and Vaughn would see it. And Vaughn was also very honest when he told me like, Mom, I don't know what to do anymore. You're scaring me. And I cried so hard. And I have to come forward and really be honest with what's going on inside me. And then reassuring him almost every single day that I'm going to be all right. I'm deliberately choosing this to release it. It has nothing to do with you. I want to love you. I want to make it right with you, but I'm doing it to make it right for myself. And then we have created like a nightly routine wherein we try to tell each other, what's nice about your day today? How can I be a better mom? Or he also asks like, how can he be a better son? And right now we've come to a point where every weekend we set our alarm. Because every Sunday at 6 p.m., we have to stop everything and just sit down and then we'll have our tough talk.
Tough talk. What is
Yeah.
that? What is that?
It's a space for, especially for my son, to ask just about anything that he can think of. There will be no judgment, whatever the questions are. As a matter of fact, he has asked me so many challenging questions, but I never show judgment towards them. But I appreciate him because he's showing vulnerability, openness, and curiosity.
That is so cool. I would love to go back to when my kids were his age and use that one. That's, I think, a super good idea. Really nice. I just also really love how you mentioned that you reassured him almost every day that what you were going through was intentional. You're confident that you're going to be okay. You understood what you were doing. And one thing I've learned about trauma in kids is that I think it almost always comes from a misunderstanding of something they're witnessing. So it's like the first time your mom yells at you when you're very little, you don't understand. You thought this person
Yeah.
just loved you completely. And then you get this yelling thing going on and you don't understand. It's just because she's having a bad day or, hungry or whatever it is. And
Yeah.
we don't understand. And that's where the traumas come from. So I've also learned in leadership, like the need to say things repeatedly because people just need that repetition to really be reminded of something. So that's, I think, just wanted to highlight that. I think that's beautiful. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, there's just very recent experience. Although we do have the tough talks and every time we can, we just have a conversation. But there's this one particular time when I was just doing my thing and suddenly he just stopped everything and he was like, Mommy, I felt that you are hiding something from me. I felt that you have a secret. It feels like I don't know you. And I was so shocked. What? Not, I'm not hiding secrets from you. As a matter of fact, I'm not hiding secrets to anyone at all. It's just that I don't say it because during that time it's none of their business. It's not that I'm hiding a secret. And he was so serious when he said, I sometimes don't know you, Mom. And that's a red flag for me because I can sense that my son wants to be closer to me but doesn't know how and I'm not aware of it. So we have to stop everything. And I just asked him, what do you want to know? And that's when he started to ask me, what did I do in high school? What did I do in elementary? Did I have bullies? What did I do with my bullies? Did I steal money from my parents? And stuff like that. And I was honored to answer them, all of them, without pretense, without marking them as right or wrong. Because during that time, he just wants to know me. And I think that's one of the amazing things that has happened recently between me and Vaughn.
That's so cool that he recognized that he wanted to know you and he figured out where the missing parts of the story were, that like the picture that he has of you and he realized like, actually, there's things I don't know. Man, that shows a lot of deep thinking on his part. Like you said, curiosity. And it sounds like you guys have a super open relationship. And I hear a lot. I've seen you with him and I hear you talk about the relationship that you have with him. And I think it's really special. Could you just share kind of quickly, like have been, because I know you've had to go through some things to make the choices you've made about the way you parent and not everybody's agreed with you. Can you share some of that journey with people? Because there's a lot of people out there that maybe they feel like they have an idea of how they would like to raise their kids that doesn't align with the tradition in their families or culture. They really feel like they're struggling with having the courage to go along with it. I'd love to hear,
Yes.
anything like that.
Definitely. I would love to share that. First things first, what's very important and true for me is you're the best parent that your child could ever have. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. The next thing, to be open to sharing your ideas with your kids, and to also have a disclaimer that your ideas might not fit the social mold, but let your children understand that it's the best interest for both parties. Tell the children what it is that you're really trying to protect them from, or the foundation that you as a family would really want to build, and keep training each other to shut down the external noise, because it's just going to hurt you, but it's not going to help.
Love it. Thank you. Those are really good tips. Really good tips. And based on the success I see you having, I would really recommend anybody that hears this consider you an authority. So I think there's a ton more of your story that we could maybe dig into in a future conversation because I've watched you grow as a person and as a leader so much in the last, how many years have we known each other? 4?
For
Yeah. And when I met you, you were teaching literature at a university, and then you quit that job. People thought you were crazy. You came to become my executive assistant for a while, which I knew was way below your skill set or I knew that wouldn't last very long. And now fast forward 4 years and you're one of the top leaders in our company. And yeah, I think there's a lot of story to tell there, but I don't think we have time for today. So I just kind of want to head toward wrapping up today's first conversation. First of all, it's really fun listening to you articulate those challenges. And I hope that you think about how you could be doing that more because I think people need to hear the way you talk about your journey and the things you've learned. Just toward as we head toward wrapping up, I have like 3 questions I want to ask. The first is I didn't warn you about this one because it just came into my head. If you think back to Jardine, let's say 4 or 5 years ago, and you think about who you see yourself as now, what are some of the biggest differences?
That's a very beautiful question, and I'd love to answer that. Should my past self see me now? I think the biggest difference would be I am embracing who I am despite people describing it otherwise. Like if my past self would say, "Why are you doing that? Diba people call us crazy?" And I would just confidently say, "Doesn't matter. It's fine. It's still beautiful." So that's one of the things that I could really think of. And I think the second one, we have, talking to my past self, I would say, we have more love now. We have more power now. So keep it cool. Chill. You're doing okay.
Nice. Well, I think you are such a shining example of vulnerability and just being your raw self and letting people see that. And I've watched you become more and more comfortable just doing that in front of people and not worrying what they think and realizing that that's actually what people need. They need that and they need an example of that. They need to also have the courage to do the same thing. So I just looking forward to seeing you continue on that journey. So 2 wrapping up questions. And like in our I hope we can do this again in the future. And I think we should, but I'd love to talk about like vulnerability more. There's like a lot of topics I think we could go deeper on next time. But for now, if we're talking to somebody that somebody came up to you and said, I really want to take more ownership of my own learning and growth. Like I want to own who I am in the future. What is one resource that has helped you emerge as a better version of yourself that you could share? Could be a book, a YouTube channel, podcast, any specific resource people could go find that has helped you.
The person who has helped me a lot, I would recommend Teal Swan. She's a spiritual guru. And not only that, she also talks about psychology, trauma, and building a better version of love that is unstained by social construct.
Oh,
So that's Teal Swan. And I do a little, just a little bit of Sadhguru because of how straightforward he sees life as. And I also love Simon Sinek because of how he's so deliberate in his leadership, but at the same time, very human.
yeah, very authentic. I agree. Those are great. Thank you. We'll put those in the show notes. Would it be okay if somebody wanted to ask you a question about one of your experiences, if there's a way that they could connect with you? If I should have asked you this before, you can say no.
I love connecting with
Okay.
people.
So,
I love getting to know people, and I'm very much open to having people know me. But the idea for that is I don't want people just to know me. I want people to spend time with me so that they can also have the opportunity to know themselves,
right.
because that's how I also learned. And I'm very active in social media, especially in Facebook. I post a lot of what people think might be random, but for me, it's just who I am. People can just really message me anytime.
We'll put your social deets in the notes. All right. Awesome. And the last question. So what's something that you feel you're still struggling with that is an area you want to keep learning as you go forward? Like an area you want to work on, improve, learn, grow.
Money, money management. I don't know that yet.
Money management or abundance, like attracting abundance into your life, things like that.
I'm so glad that you mentioned it that way because for the longest time, I've always thought that money was an issue. Money was a problem. I've been talking insurance policy guys, investment guys, and financial advisors. I could never resonate with them.
Yeah.
Then I realized that maybe I'm looking at it externally just by the view of it's money, but maybe, yeah, like when you mentioned abundance, maybe that's the one that I really have to keep growing on.
I'll share a quick thought. I've struggled a lot. Well, I've never had a lot of money. For a long time, I had big dreams of becoming wealthy. I thought I was smart. I thought I could, become very successful. And in the last couple of years, I've read and started learning a good bit more about concept of, I just thought a lot about scarcity versus abundance energy and mindset and the emotional relationship that we have with money. I read a book by T. Harv Eker called The Secrets of the Millionaire Mindset, which I actually found really helpful. And now I'm actually doing this. I'm part of this group called the Conscious Millionaire. He's doing this guy named JV Crum, who I actually recently interviewed on my other podcast. He's doing this School of Abundance. And I really think our energy resonates with the universe. And when we get ourselves into an abundance energy, things just start coming toward us. It's kind of weird. And when I slip into scarcity energy, not just with money, but other things, like things don't go as well. I really feel that's been true. And let's talk about that more later, because maybe I could share some of the things that I'm learning or have experienced. Jardine, you and I have known each other for 4 years. We get to work together and we used to talk one on one a lot. Lately, we haven't. Today has been a lot of fun for me to get a chance to do that again and to rehear some of the stories that you've told me a long time ago, but maybe parts of them that I didn't hear. And it's been amazing. I think you articulate your journey so well. So I really enjoyed it. And I'm pretty sure other people are going to agree. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you. I'm the one who's very, very thankful for, yeah, this is what you're doing reminds me of how I was also healing. And it was in a radio show before, it wasn't a podcast yet. I heard just two people talking about trauma and abuse. And I don't know these people, but when I heard them, it has a huge impact on me. And your courage to simply walk that path. I find that very powerful. And I guess my hope for you is to keep using this platform to inform and I can't find any other word but awaken people who might just be sleeping through their depression or their challenges. And when they hear something like this, it might be a wake up call for them or a reminder that they still have what it takes to make their life worth it.
Very sweet. And one of the biggest reasons I'm doing this is because I have found the dynamic of listening to two other people talk as one of the best learning methods ever. That's why podcasts are so popular, because I don't know what it is, but being a human fly on the wall and being able to just listen to two other people talk where we don't feel like nobody's talking to us. It's not advice. It's just those two people talking. I don't know what. It's something special about it. It works. And I also just really believe that people in the Philippines need to hear stories of people who have gone through what they're going through. And they don't need to hear stories from people that are already billionaires or, kind of like didn't go through what they're going through. They need to hear stories of just regular people that have had struggle, because that's how we realize we're not alone. And we learn through stories of people. That's who humans learn, through stories. So thanks for taking the time. I hope that, yeah, I feel really good about doing this and just going to keep doing it. I think people will enjoy it and we'll get feedback and try to get better and keep doing it. So thank you.
Thank you, Eli. And thank you for the time you guys are listening to this segment episode.
Yeah.
I hope you
Interview episode.
learn a thing or two.
Cool. Talk to you soon. Thank you so much for listening to this interview on Emerge Stories. We really hope that something here sparked your curiosity or maybe helped you think about something in your life just from a little bit of a different angle or perspective, maybe opened up your mind to something you might be able to do in your life to take more ownership of your own learning and growth. That's the goal of this show. So please join our community, like and share, and tell other people about these stories if they're meaningful for you. And thanks so much for being here.